All right, so now I'm going to figure out where the edge of the body is. Because I have this great angle over here that kind of shows me where the left side of the body lines up, that one's a lot easier to figure out than the right side, which comes out substantially more than, say, the edge of my hair does. So I need to find a way to figure out how far out that needs to go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my initial measurement, because that is my go-to measurement. That is like my key, that's my guide. So I'm going to go to that, and I'm going to measure out to see how far the edge of the body comes. So I get myself in position. I have something that's kind of happened naturally in the pose is that I've started to raise my right shoulder a little bit, which I actually like. I like that for the energy of the pose rather than a little bit more of a calmer slouch. I like that that movement that kind of happened, which is how the collar gets placed this high up on my neck. There's just a little bit more of a guarded nature in that pose, a little bit more tension. So I'm going to keep that, but making sure I'm getting myself just right. That looks pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead and get my measurement again. Alright, so it comes out a little bit more than 5 wide, and which is obviously difficult because I have my shoulder raised here, so that's why I kind of held it and then moved it straight down so I could get my shoulder kind of back in its pretty close to its original position. And I think this is probably going to take me off of the page, which is fine. So 3, I'm just going back, making sure. So 3 actually comes out a little bit further. 4, like that. And 5, yeah, see, so it's going to come off, which is good because that will actually fill in this compositional space down here, which I really like, which I was, kind of planning for anyway. So I see that there are some other marks that will look good in this composition. So my hair is a little bit different today. My hair comes out a little bit further here. This mask still looks pretty much the same, but the angle on my hair today comes out a little bit more. Comes out about here, and I'm seeing that if I'm going to follow this straight down, there is this part of my shoulder, the top part of my shoulder here, and it kind of comes out to about the edge of the hair, and then it slopes. And let's see. So I'm just kind of taking a moment to observe that angle, to see about what that angle looks like. This should actually slip down just a little bit more here, and then get that nice downward angle there, which kind of just continues all the way off. So let's get rid of those lines that we don't like, ones that aren't serving the drawing. Cool. Got that on there. I'm actually going to measure this collar a little bit. This the mass here versus the mass here look a little bit different than what I believe I'm observing, so I'm just going to take a moment and measure that. I'm going to start my measurement for the smaller side right off of this neckline, because obviously when I'm measuring here, I don't want to be measuring, say, in this space and then check it in this space on my drawing, because these measurements could be totally different. So I'm lining up that measurement with a point that I can understand. Like the bottommost measurement, maybe I'll line up with this point here in relation to this. You know, so I'm not getting mixed up in, you know, measuring over here or measuring over here. I want to measure in the same places from life that I will be measuring in my drawing. There's my child. Don't know if you can hear the baby monitor. Daddy's on baby duty today. Okay. So that's the mass that I have right now. That looks like that is a little bit too small, so this is a little bit off. So what I have to figure out, is this wrong? Is this mass wrong, or is this mass wrong? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this measurement here and compare it to something else, so I can figure out if this one is wrong or if this mass is wrong. So alright, so what I got is that this here is the measurement from the bottom of the nostril to the tear duct on the eye. It's the same mass as this, which shows me that this is wrong here. Good. Okay. Dun, dun, dun. Which will also, so that is going to actually lower this whole section over here down. Trial and error drawing. But this is, you know, this is how you can kind of go back and you can check some of those things that you've done. It looks like my collar isn't coming out quite as far today, but that's one of those things where I may end up sticking with what I have. I don't know, let's see. Let's maybe cut that in a little bit more. My shirt is, you know, hanging on me a little bit differently today than it was yesterday, because I've started a new session today. So I'm just going to see how I like that. Kind of move back from it a little bit. Let me step back a bit further and assess. And I think I like it. I think I'll like it. I'll keep that. Keep moving. What this is going to do though is that this is obviously going to change this here, which is something I should have checked earlier, that the shoulder starts kind of about here on the neck, which is exactly where it's going to start now. So, and to figure that out, to figure out where that shoulder started, I basically was just, you know, taking my imaginary horizontal line, so using my pencil as that actually, and seeing where it lines up with the neck or with something else. Happen to be seeing the neck. That lines up right about there. It's gonna go up just a touch higher. And now I'm just going to follow the drawing that I already had, because I'm going to trust that what I had drawn was actually pretty well correct. So this go down, go over. Always get rid of the lines you don't need. Okay. Cool. Let me give that a little bit more of a slope. Want a little bit more of a slope just for composition, I think. There's a little bit of a black shirt that comes in under here. That will come over. Make that little point. All right. So see, I have a fold here, which was consistent with, at least pretty consistent with the pose yesterday. I remember seeing this fold in the shirt right here. So I'm going to draw this in partly just to show you, or to explain, how I'm observing that and lining it up. So my arm is going to throw off that fold if I raise it. So I'm just going to do this by sight. And what I see is that the distance from this point down to the fold is about half of this distance. And I'm doing that obviously without measuring. This is like, partly guesswork here, but it's guesswork based on information, So I have that angle. I also see that the angle of that fold is not quite parallel to this angle. Okay, so once again, I'm seeing this angle and this shape in relation to something else. So I'm seeing it as not quite parallel with this. They don't fall completely along the same track. This is slightly more horizontal. Okay, so instead of making it perfectly in line with this angle, I'm making sure that I'm observing that difference and plotting that on there. So this is going to have just a little bit more of an angle to it. And then I see as it kind of gets into here, that angle starts to drop a little bit more. That's my horrible line quality there. Okay, and then I can see where this stops. It's actually, this needs to be even more of an angle because the mass up top here should be even greater. So in this one line, I have compared it, I've figured out where it started, how much mass it needs to have here based on this measurement here, right? I have also seen the general angle of it based on its relation to this angle. And then I have, to further reinforce, this angle here, I am seeing how much its width relates, how much this area here relates to this area. Okay, So in this one line, I'm making multiple, I'm gauging multiple relationships in order to make sure that this line is being put on in just the right way. And that's, kind of what is required for accuracy. What I'm also saying is where that stops, where it hits this seam in my shirt here. And I'm looking that the edge is right here. There's the point. It stops right there. And if I'm to draw a vertical line up from that, I see where it intersects with the collar, which is about here, right? So that means this fold is going to stop at the seam right about there. So let me see if I can, I'm going to measure, interesting, perfect. Okay, cool. I can see where this seam starts based on its relationship to this. See, it starts right about here. Because once again, I'm just kind of drawing this imaginary vertical line up to the head and seeing, making sure my head's in position first, but seeing where this seam right here, where it meets the collar, where does that line up with another part of the body. So I'm drawing a vertical line up. Make sure my head's in the right position. It looks like it'll be right about here. It's a nice little slope here. And I know that it needs to connect right there. So I'm just kind of looking at the slope of that angle. It maybe pops up just a tiny bit right here where it connects. Get my shoulder right so that pose is correct. And it gets almost completely horizontal right here because of the stiffness, the verticality of my shoulder. And I see that this slopes down basically right at the edge of the hair, just a little bit past that. So it starts to slope down and then comes down. And then this other seam, let's see.